nurtures the land. From the soft earth and dried leaves crawl out the creatures with shells on their backs. They are the snails. This snail has just moved from the ground to the molded rocks. It is a short distance, but the snail takes a lot of time and energy to reach the destination. Although they are slow-moving, their ancestors have been crawling on the lands of the earth for over 300 million years. They are the creatures of the dinosaurs' time. That is to say that they have been through a long history of evolution. This group of ancient, primitive, and simple creatures is highly successful in terms of evolution, and that is why their footprints have remained across the continents. From the plains to the mountains, from the country to the cities, and from the tropics to the frigid zones, snails are seen everywhere in the world. It shows that the snails are great adapters to their environment. Snails, in the world of animals, are a group of land mollusks, and in the family tree, they belong to the mollusca. Typical snails are pulmonate gastropod. The pulmonates usually have 2 pairs of antennae, and the eyes grow on top of the hind tentacle. Characteristically, they have no lips. Like this ball snail, when it retracts back into its shell, there is no cover at the mouth of the shell. It is very easy to identify. Most snails we see outdoors belong to this category. Including the Bradybana similaris, Aegista mackenzie, Conoglobus nux, and Hemifiducia buduiensis. Another category of snails are the Prosobranchia gastropodia. Cyclophorus taiwanus cochinensis belong to this category. When it retracts back to its shell, the lip-like structure seals off the opening of its shell. Snails of this category only have 1 pair of antennae, and the eyes are at the bottom of the antennas. Others are Cyclophorus taiwanus cochinensis, Leptopoma nitidum taiwanum, and Cyclophorus latus chirota are snails of this category. Shells are the important protective device for snails. They not only protect the soft bodies of the snails from sharp objects, but also prevent the extra evaporation of body fluid. Most snails have yellowish-brown shells that simulate the colors of the earth and dried woods, which possess a protective function. They are often active in dark areas to avoid being discovered. Although shells could protect them, shells are the sweet burdens as well. The shells are on the back of the snails all the time, eating, sleeping, sliding, or climbing trees. The shells also move with them. For soft-bodied snails, shells are heavy burdens. However, not all snails have shells. Most members of the snail family have shells, but there is one group of snails who have small or no shells. For example, the shellless slug. Snails that have very small shells are called semislugs. Even though they have different names, they are all members of the snail family. Without the protection of the shells, the slugs have more freedom and flexibility. They move faster than the snail with a shell and are flexible enough to get into the rock crevices or tree gaps. The latter offer a same protection as those of shells. Snails are most active after the rain or when the morning dew has not yet been evaporated. This is the time for food hunting. They love all kinds of vegetables, mushrooms, bulbs, melons, and humus. This Augusta snail is having a feast on the fresh and juicy green sprouts. The plain in springtime is full of such delicious banquets. Snails have teeth like files, so it is easy for them to cut off the new leaves and stems. Other than those vegetarian snails, there are a kind of carnivorous snails, such as Odontartemon houdae. Except feeding on vegetables, they also attack other snails. Vision is the most important sensory for many organisms because food hunting depends on it. But snails have very poor eyesight, so the antennas on their heads become the major sensory organ. When they are searching for food, the snails use the odor receptor of the antennas to identify the smell of food in the air. Some snails even remember the location where they found the food on the previous day and march directly towards that direction to save time for food searching. After all, they are dragging heavy shells up and down. It's got to be energy consuming. The foot of a snail look very soft, so does it get hurt when a snail crawls over rough surfaces or sharp objects? Well, you need not worry. Although snails look fragile, they have many survival mechanisms to adapt them into the life in the wilderness. They move by their feet, which is actually a flat piece of belly, so we call it the abdominal feet. When they crawl, their bodies secrete a kind of mucus to moisturize the abdominal feet. So they can glide up and down the trees vertically and not get scratched by the rough surfaces. Although snails move very slowly, they often perform interesting stunts. For example, they can walk through the sharp thorns and the narrow vines without being hurt. The highly technical crossover motions are no problems to the soft-bodied creatures with heavy shells. Look, this white snail is showing off its amazing skills of crossing over leaves. The snail uses its expanded abdominal foot to form a back anchor and then stretch its head to search for a branch or leaf in front. When a snail finds a landing spot, it expands its head to form a front anchor. After the front anchor is firmly fixed on the target, it releases the back anchor by retracting the abdominal foot and then slowly moves its shell on its back over to the other side. Voila! The action of crossing leaves is now completed. rain season around spring and summer is a high season for snail reproduction. Land snails are hermaphroditic. They have both testes and ovary in a same individual body, even though they still have to crossbreed with other snails. The length of time needed for a session of intercourse varies from species to species. It may take up a few minutes to a few hours. After mating, the sperms are stored inside of the spouse snail until they are inseminated, which may span from a few weeks to a few months. And insemination only takes place when a suitable egg-laying place is found. The cross-fertilized snail will seek a suitable place and dig a hole to lay the eggs. They may choose places with moist soil, on the dried branches or rotting leaves, or under stones. The newly hatched young are very small, but already have antennas and eyes, and are given their own shell. They are cute and adorable. Foreign species, giant African snail, take only 4 months to become a mature snail. Most land snails have a spiral shell, and it grows spirally and increases its size until they reach adulthood. The main composition of the shells is calcium carbonate, so the snails must obtain sufficient calcium carbonate in their daily diets to build its own shell. During the rain season, snails are mostly active in moist nights. However, if the humidity is high enough during the day, they come out for some activities also. Rainy days during spring and summer are the peak activity period for snails. You will see snails climbing up tree trunks or vertical walls and extending its antenna. Don't think snails only live in the grass or in the gaps of the stone piles. They are also well adapted to both the tree and ground environments. Snails, including Conoglobus albida and Leptopoma nitidum Taiwan, are tree snails. The treetops are higher and drier with more sunlight. Therefore, snails mostly stay under the leaves or between the branches. They are skillfully moving around the branches. Snails like Aegista mackenzie and Dolachelota formosensis are also tree snails, but their activity area is limited to the middle layer of the forests. Snails of the middle layer of the forest usually hide on the trunks or epiphyte. There are also some snails living in the bottom layer of the forests, like the Clausylidae and Cyclophorodiae. Since the bottom layer of the forests have less sunlight and more humus, the snails mostly live in the piles of dried leaves or fallen trees. Away from the forest, farmlands and cities also see the traces of snails, like the common Aegista caparata or Bradybana similaris. Observe closely. The garden in your home or nearby park may just be the playground of the snails. So, if you want to observe the snail ecology, look around for green plants in dark and moist places. You might be surprised to find snails. Snails are less adapted to the hot summer and cold, dried winter. Therefore, in summer, snails stay in the dark and moist area. While in winter, they dig underground and go into their shells to stay hydrated during hibernation. During hibernation, snails with lip pieces seal their shells tightly with the operculum to prevent moisture evaporation. Look closely. Some snails have small holes around the operculum to let the air in and out. Pulmonates, on the other hand, secrete a layer of calcium film which solidify to seal off itself with the outer world. This thin solidified film allows air to pass but prevents moisture from evaporation. Usually, snails hibernate for a few months. They are tough organisms. When the rainy season comes, they digest their films and stretch their bodies, eyes, and antennas out to declare the beginning of an active season. Although snails have shells to protect themselves, they also have predators, such as the lizards, larvae of fireflies, and other insects. Look, this baby Laura wasp is attacking the snail. The thin, long bodies are crawling into the spiral shells to eat the snails. The snails also have another predator, the human. For a long time, humans have had a wide variety of food, including snails. Although snails are edible, they cannot be eaten raw because some types of snails are the hosts of some parasites. Parasites often enter the human body through snails. For example, the African snail is a common host of parasites. There have been cases of parasite infections caused by eating raw snail meat. The natural ecology is well balanced under a certain order. Each individual plays its role in balancing the system. The slow-moving snails are also a part of the ecosystem. Interesting phenomena of life are happening quietly around us. It is not difficult to find the unique principles and wisdoms of survival in daily life. All you need to do is pay close attention to the surroundings. Through close observation and understanding nature, we will respect and protect Mother Nature.